Hello, beautiful peaches. Welcome to the Macros, Metabolism, and Motivation Beautiful Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlen, a reverse diet expert, sustainable fat loss nerd, and food freedom lover. After healing my own mind, body, and metabolism from the icky, restrict, binge, food guilt cycles, I became obsessed with helping other women do the same. I spent 6 years getting my bachelor's and master's degrees in all things nutrition, dietetics, and metabolism health, go Clemson Tigers, in order to start a science-backed, never cookie-cutter, always customized online macro and reverse diet coaching business. I have supported over 3,500 incredible women in their journey to endless results, and I am so excited to help you do the same. In this podcast, I will be teaching you how to break up with the yo-yo diet cycles, tips and tricks to heal your metabolism through reverse dieting. I will be giving away my sustainable weight loss secrets, all without you having to give up a single food you love. So if you're ready to rediscover that self-love and truly become the most confident, beautiful peach possible, grab a pen and a piece of paper, bump up your volume just a little, and let's dive right in. And don't forget to snag your completely free high-protein macro cookbook. All you need to do is submit a quality 5-star rate and review on this podcast, then fill out the form in the show notes so I know exactly where to send your cookbook. This will actually also automatically enter you into the weekly macro calculator giveaway. Every week, I give away a copy of my C. Schmidt macro calculator to one lovely, beautiful peach who has left an awesome 5-star rate and review on this podcast. The winner is announced every single week in my email newsletter email list, as well as my Instagram story. You can't miss it. So leave that 5-star rate and review, and I will see you in the episode.
What is up, my beautiful, beautiful peach? Today we are going to be talking all about the question, do you need to do a calorie deficit after your reverse diet? I've had this question so many times over the past, I would say over the past 10 years, to be very honest, because I have been coaching for 10 years, but also just as I have been really taking a deep dive into all things reverse dieting, over the past few months in my podcast, this question comes up again and again and again, and I'm like, you know what? I think this would be an absolutely amazing topic to do on a full podcast episode. So I'm very excited. We are going to be talking through calorie deficits, transitioning into calorie deficits after reverse dieting, if you should go into a reverse diet after a calorie deficit, and really honestly, if you should do a calorie deficit after a reverse diet. So kind of like all of the above. It's going to be an all-encompassing episode, and I'm very, very excited about it. It is a very rainy day here. I feel like every time I go to record podcast episodes, it is raining, but I've got my cozy blanket because I sometimes get a little bit chilly when recording, even though it's getting warmer outside. I feel like I've been living in I realize that almost every single time I record a podcast, I have like my little black sweater on because it's so incredibly comfy, and it's now very well loved, and it's starting to like shed a little bit, and I'm like, no, I love it so much. I got it from Target, and I'm like, I don't want to get another one, but I will if I need to. So I'm ready for this episode. I'm nice and cozy. I've got my blanket. I am ready to go, and I am so excited. So without further ado, let's dive on into the episode. Let's talk about transitioning between calorie deficits and reverse diets. I think honestly that a lot of women just really hyper focus on the calorie deficit itself and, really just on the weight loss, on making the weight loss happen, on doing it fast, on, okay, cool, we just need a reverse diet. Let's do it really, really fast. And then we can get immediately into that cutting phase, into cutting calories, into weight loss. And I hear you completely. I completely understand the excitement in seeing those changes to our body, in having those physical changes, and also, my little mama bear thought process here. It is also extremely important to recognize how long it took you to get into the space where your body is in this current state and it might just be asking you for a little bit of love. So for many women, and this might resonate with you, but they have been in a space of calorie deficits, calorie restrictions for 5 years, for 10 years. A lot of the women that I do work with have been dieting for over 30 years. And we get into this headspace of, I have been dieting for so long, I just want to be free and I want it now. And if it took us 10 years to get into this current space, we're not going to be able to heal within 1 month. We're not going to be able to heal within 3 months, right? And I have 3 topics that I want to cover in relating to transitioning between the phases, as well as giving ourselves the time to fully heal so we never end up back in that space where our metabolism, our body is like, oh my goodness, give me the love. And just really give you the honest truth behind what it looks like to transition between phases, because I do think that so many people get so incredibly eager to see the changes so fast that they forget about everything except for the fat loss, and they a lot of times forget about everything except for what they've learned in the diet industry. And it really is an unlearning of what the diet industry teaches us and a learning of that long-term change. So let's get into it. I've got the 3 topics that I want to cover. First, it's going to be what happens to our body when we are reverse dieting. Second, it's going to be what happens to our body once we hit our metabolic. That was so weird. Metabolic. I think I tried to say metabolism and metabolic and it came out metabolic. We're going to roll with that one. That's another Kate word of the day. But what we're going to do is what happens to our body when we hit that point, specific to our own individual body, because every single human in the entire world has a different metabolism, different body, different goals, past diet history, different lifestyle, the whole 9 yards. And then third, what happens when we go into a calorie deficit after we have been reverse dieting, okay? So first and foremost, let's talk about what happens to our body when we are reverse dieting. And I don't want to spend way too much time on this topic because I actually do have an episode completely dedicated to solely this information. If you go back to episode 91, why low calorie dieting slows your metabolism and causes weight regain, you will get a massive deep dive. But to give you just the basics here, the summed up version, because it's going to be important for the other 2 topics for the rest of this episode. So when we are in a prolonged calorie deficit, our body is going to adapt to the overall intake of what we are eating. So example, if our body is thriving at its absolute best at 2,400 calories, this is a total example, made up number. However, we are currently eating 1,200 calories. This means that our body is actually losing out in an additional 1,200 calories that we are not consuming, right? Our body works best at its 24. We are currently eating 1,200. That is half the amount of calories, meaning we are losing out on 1,200 calories that your body needs to keep you functioning at its absolute best, to keep all systems running 100%. And it's basically like your body trying to show up at 100%, but only with 50% of its battery power. Okay. So it's not going to lead our body to that long-term, having the best, functioning for all of our systems, being able to show up at that 100% because we're only giving it 50% of the fuel, 50% of the battery power. So what our body is going to actually do is, and I don't think I've ever actually explained it this way. I was talking to one of my clients about this in BPM, and she had this aha moment of oh my gosh, I understand it. It clicked. And I was like, oh, this is incredible. Okay, I need to share this. I need to share this on my podcast. So, and my Instagram. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I hang out on my stories all the time. If you want to see what I'm doing in a day-to-day, the fun things that I'm eating, where I'm going out and about to eat, all that good stuff. So you can always go do that, or just send me a DM and say, hey, what's up, Caitlin? I love your podcast. I'm always here to chat. But basically coming back to the episode here, if your body is trying to function at 100% with only 50% of its battery fuel, your body is going to look through all the systems that are going on, and it's going to actually start to reduce the energy going to certain systems that are not necessary for long-term life, for, keeping you living and breathing. Okay. So it's basically going to go through the entire list of its systems and say, okay, what can we down-regulate to make sure that we keep, Stacy over there living and breathing? And this is actually why things like libido get down-regulated. Yes, awesome. We love to have great libido. We love to have that up and running at its absolute best. However, it's not a priority for us to live, so it gets down-regulated, right? So when you think about it, it's yes, obviously I want to have great libido. That makes me feel good. That makes me have a great, awesome, thriving sex life, to be honest with you. But if you're working at 50%, your body's like, well, that's not necessary to keep you living and breathing. And it's like, all right, we're going to downregulate that. And so if you think about all the different pieces, go back to that episode 91. That's going to give you all of the different things that are going to be downregulated. And think about it that way. It's your body having 50% of its battery fuel, but trying to work at 100%. So it's going to start to pick certain systems and say, all right, we're going to downregulate that bad boy, libido being one of them, all the many other things in that episode 91 that we'll talk you through. And it's downregulating those to make sure that you are still living and breathing and functioning, okay? So taking all of this into account, if we have been in a long-term deficit, then we do what's going to be best for our body, and we say, hey, I am going to do a reverse diet, right? I'm going to fuel my body at its absolute best. I'm going to get it back to that 100% battery power. I really want all my systems regulating. I want that libido back. I want that energy back, right? I want that sleep-wake cycle. I just try to mix sleep-wake cycle, and it was like, what did I just say? Sleep-wakle? Something like that. It always makes me laugh when I do that. But this is basically, when we are reverse dieting, it is going to be healing our body from the inside out. And I think a lot of people look at a reverse diet of like solely getting from 1,200 calories to 2,400 calories or whatever is going to be specific for your body, because everybody is going to be so different. So when I'm saying these examples in my podcast episodes, and I'm saying like 1,200 calories, I'm saying 2,400 calories, please know that these are all true examples for you, that are not going to be specific for you, your body, your metabolism. All of those different pieces are going to be so incredibly different. So you'll want to have an individual, customized calculation for that. You can always grab my free metabolism report. It'll help you actually figure out, if you have a slow metabolism, exactly where it sits. So, hey, does it sit at 1,200 calories? Maybe it's at 1,000. Maybe it's a little bit higher, right? It will tell you exactly where it actually needs to be, that base level there. And then it'll actually share with you if you need a reverse diet or if you need a calorie deficit. So it's really cool. And I created this because so many women were like, I think that I have a slow metabolism, but I'm not really sure. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't I just like create a full report for you to go through, and you can actually calculate it. So that's down below in the show notes. I will make sure it's in this episode, and you can just go grab that completely free, and it'll help you determine whether or not you do have a slow metabolism, okay? Now, coming back to this, right? When we are doing a reverse diet, I think so many people are like, it is a flip of a switch. I have reverse dieted. My body is thriving at 100%. I am good to go in a calorie deficit. But it's not just like that. It's not just you eat more food and your body is automatically like, cool, we are good to go. Let's do this. It is a slow and steady process, okay? It's the tortoise and the hare. We always want to be the tortoise. We want to go slow and steady. It is not a process that we want to rush. And if we have spent the past 5 years, the past 3 years, the past 10 years, 30 years, however long it has been dieting, then we can't just assume that it's going to be a flip of a switch and our body will be healed, okay? We really want to strategically plan out those steps so you are healing once and for all. And something to think about too is when we are going through a reverse diet, and let's say that the example number of the minimum place where your body needs to be is 2,400 as the example, where it's at 100% capacity, okay? Almost always, I would say 99.9% of the time, have my clients go higher than that number, than where their minimum base level of where their metabolism needs to be. Because, and there's a couple reasons for this. I can't remember if it's this episode. I think it actually might be an episode coming up in the next couple of weeks, but I think it might be in 2 weeks. I was writing a bunch of notes for my episodes today. I've got like 5 different podcasts actually. Actually, I've got 10 ideas and I have notes for 5 of them. Anyway, long story short, coming back here, when we are in that place where we hit that minimum number, we want to keep going up, because this is going to give us adequate time to hang out in that higher calorie space, aka adequate time to hang out in that space where your body is really reversing the process of all of those down regulations from that calorie deficit, and get you hanging out in that space long enough to where everything is functioning at its best. It's not holding on to things for dear life thinking, oh my gosh, is she going to slash calories again? Like, are we going to be jumping back into a calorie deficit so fast? And if we don't want our body in that fight or flight mode, it's hard to say, we don't want our body fearing for, its life and being like, okay, system override, we're going into protective mode. We want it to stay in a place of, hey, we're okay. Let's take a deep breath. We're calm. We're regulated. We're feeling good. And you're hanging out at that space that's high enough to then, say, for example, you reverse diet to, like 2,700 calories, then you can safely go into a calorie deficit, probably not even go under 2,000 calories, lose the weight that you want to lose, and you're like, okay, great, I feel good. You've barely gone below that 2,400 calories. Your body's like, hey, I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. Systems are still regulated. You might be working at like 90% or 95% of your energy level, but that is so much better than 50%, and it barely makes an impact on how you feel. You're feeling amazing throughout the entire time, okay?
I want to interrupt this oh so lovely podcast episode of mine to let you know that BPM, my beautiful peach mastermind, is open for enrollment. BPM is my high-level group coaching program for women who want to reverse diet to heal their metabolism from that restrictive burnout so they can lose the weight and keep it off for good. It is for women who want to increase their energy and joy for life so they can chase after their kiddos, go out to eat with their significant other, and even have wine night with the girls without that restrict, binge, and food guilt cycle. As a bonus, all of my BPM clients get complimentary access to my reverse diet course, where you will learn exactly how to adjust macros for reverse dieting on your own. This quite literally includes my own personal spreadsheets that help you customize your reverse diet for your success. I even threw in my alcohol plug-and-play tracker for you ladies. Go ahead and apply through the link in the show notes or hop over to my Instagram and feel free to send me the DM BPM sneak peek for my inside look of the program details. I can't wait to see your application and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Now, this leads us into our number 2 here, okay? So we talked through what happens when we're in that prolonged calorie deficit. So what happens to our body when we hit that why am I struggling to say this today? Metabolic set point specific for our body. And I talked through this. I've actually kind of combined 1 and 2 there, but we finished the reverse diet. Of course, it's starting to thunder. I honestly think every single time I go to record podcasts these days, it's like thundering outside. And don't get me wrong, I love a good, cozy thunderstorm day. But it's one of those days where I'm like, I'd like to be like doing busy work, right? Like I'd like to be like hanging out in my DMs, like chatting with you ladies. Like I'd love to be, I don't know, just doing little things rather than feeling like I have to sit here, talking into a mic, which I'm not, don't get me wrong. I also really love and enjoy recording my podcast, but it's like, I want to be like cozy, Anyway, it's just so interesting. Every single time I'm like, it's going to rain. It's going to rain. I know it is, but it's okay. And I love it. So I feel like this is the 3rd time where I'm like bringing it back to the episode. We're coming back. But we finished our reverse diet in this example, in this number 2, right? We have everything really, really regulating nicely. I actually have a BPM client who I think I might have her notes in here. I do. I really love to share the real world scenarios because I think sometimes it gives you that relatability factor of, because every single woman in the entire world is going to be so incredibly different, right? Different personalities, different metabolism, different lifestyles. And so when I talk about certain lifestyles and you're like, wait, that's like me, and it's exciting and you can relate to it. And so I have this one client in BPM. BPM is my high-level group coaching program. I teach you everything that I do as a coach. So how to adjust your macros for reverse dieting, for calorie deficits, transitioning between, going intuitive down the road. We have weekly check-ins. We have a kick butt community of women who are absolutely phenomenal. And for this particular client, she came to me after dieting, I think 25 years. Oh, I have 20 years here. I think it's actually 25 years. Her first diet was when she was in college, and after turning 40, she realized that life is so much more than just dieting. And she initially joined BPM to go into the reverse diet. She's like, yes, I would like to lose weight. Yes, I really, really, really want to get into a space where I'm feeling amazing in my body. And she also realized, she was like, okay, I see that I've been dieting for a long time. I see that I need to take the time to do the reverse diet. She is now eating a little bit over I think I have like 5 clients right now eating over 9,000 calories. Good grief, not that much. Whoa, can you imagine 9,000 calories a day? That would be wild. But a little over 900 calories in her reverse dieting. We're closing in on the end of her reverse diet. And for her, it's been about a year. I think what's really important is people come into the process of a reverse diet and they're like, so a month, then we're good to go. And I'm like, no. We really want to have that full healing process to make sure that when you do lose that weight, you keep it off, okay? And she actually is down a few inches in her reverse diet. There's a huge change in our body composition for some women. If you go to episode 109, will you gain weight during a reverse diet or when you reverse diet? That has some really great information on that. But her libido has come back in full force. Excuse me. She no longer feels the need to binge eat. She has not had a binge in over a year, but her cycle is regulated. She travels to visit her kids who are in college. She actually stayed out to 11 p.m. with all the energy, and she was just like, I feel amazing. Her kids were saying they're like, who is this new mother? Like, I'm loving it. And it's fun because her husband and her kids notice. And the reason why I bring this up is because when she initially came to me and came to BPM, she was very, very set on the timeline of her reverse diet. Am I going to be done in 2 months? Am I going to be done in 1 month? Am I going to be done in 4 weeks? Whatever it may be. And she finally hit this point where she was like, okay, I get it. I get that I need to take it slow and steady. I get that I've been dieting for over 20 years. I need to spend some time healing. And also she was like, I get that I'm not going to heal, overnight. She wanted the long game. And was it easy? No. I have supported her through some big, big, big mental barriers. When we have been dieting for 20 plus years, for 5 years, for 1 year, we end up with a lot of diet mentality that we have to work on unlearning. So we really worked through the stress over the number on the scale with her. I really dove into, I guess technically with the right grammar there, but the day she wanted to slash her calories, where she was just like, I don't want to wait. I just want to jump back into the quick fix mentality. Really, really took a deep dive there, right? Bad body image days. And also, I've supported her through such incredible, incredible wins in the fact that she found love in her body and who she was. She stopped seeking external validation. She fell in love with her body at every single stage that she is in. And now, honestly, it's so crazy because she said, I don't remember how she phrased it, but she basically just said she's been able to take her life back. She's been able to find this freedom in living her life and going out to eat, enjoying the food, knowing that what she's doing is healing her body and giving her that long-term change. And she said, this is so wild. She was honestly like, weight loss has kind of now become like a secondary factor. Like, I feel really, really amazing. I know that it's coming, but it's not my sole focus because I feel so absolutely freaking phenomenal. And she's traveled to, I forgot I wrote this in here, to Napa, to Spain, to Italy, like not a single fear of getting off track. No crash dieting, anything like that. And my point here is kind of get a little lengthy, but my point here is she realized that after 20 years of dieting, it's not going to happen overnight. And she really, really leaned into that. So many people just want that quick fix. They just want to take that deep dive. And if we're not looking at the big picture here, if we're focusing on just the weight loss, we're going to forget about the fact that our body needs to heal from the inside out, okay? We don't want to just slash our calories. We want to hold our head high. We want to really get ourselves going for that long-term change, okay? Now, this brings us to number 3 here, calorie deficits after reverse dieting. So we've covered what happens when we are in a prolonged calorie deficit, okay? And also, that really shows us that after a prolonged calorie deficit, we want to make sure we are doing a reverse diet, not only to make sure that we are healing our body, making sure everything is regulating, making sure everything is, healing from the inside out, but this also sets us up for a very nice calorie deficit in the future. So if we go from 1,200 calories all the way up to that point, right, 2,400 calories, right, we're at that minimum place, then we get to keep going, we're at 2,600 calories. We are now in a really great place for this number 3 here when we can go into that calorie deficit after reverse dieting. We have fully healed our body from the inside out. We have fully healed our relationship with food. We are no longer binging. We're no longer stuck in the restrict, the binge, the food guilt cycles. We have done, hopefully, fingers crossed, you've done a lot of the inner work on learning to love yourself in who you are right now rather than trying to find the external validation. And you're ready to just let go of the timeline and do what's best for your body and know that you will get there because you are taking the actionable steps with that strategy to get to the point where you have that healed metabolism and going into that calorie deficit, okay? Now, the truth of the matter here, I wrote the truth of the matter of how long it will take. Many people want to know the exact timeline, and as much as I love to say, here's an exact timeline, I think it's important to note that everybody's body is going to be different. Everybody's lifestyle is going to be different. So how many pounds will you lose exactly every single week? There is no such thing as an exact number. The truth, though, here is macros are science, but our bodies are going to work sometimes outside of science in the sense of we might end up traveling and not hitting our macros for a week, so you're not going to get an adjustment that week, and that's okay. Life's going to happen, okay? It's not going to be cookie cutter, and it's not going to be one size fits all, okay? So when it comes to that calorie deficit, it allows us to go into the space where we're eating 2,600 calories. We can go down to 2,000 calories. We can get all of that weight coming off. We have now hit our goal. Our body is thriving. We're feeling our absolute best, and we have not gone into a restrictive phase again, okay? Now, the big question here, I said, so should you do a calorie deficit after a reverse diet? Should you do a reverse diet after your calorie deficit? And so yes, after you finish any calorie deficit, you're going to want to do a reverse diet to maintain the progress that you made, okay? Should you do a calorie deficit? I feel like as I'm saying this, I'm like, I hope this is like, cause it's easier to like read it than it is to like say it because it's swapping the words, right? So should you do the calorie deficit after the reverse diet, and should you do the reverse diet after the calorie deficit? But basically think about it this way. Anytime you finish a deficit, you want to reverse diet again to make sure you're maintaining the results that you got during that calorie deficit, but getting your intake back up, okay? Because if you just jump up from 1,200 calories to 2,400 calories without reverse dieting, that will lead to weight gain. But if you strategically do a reverse diet from that 1,200 calorie place all the way up to 2,400 calories, you won't have that mass weight regain, okay? Now, should you do a calorie deficit after you finish that reverse diet? Two different goals here determining that answer. So if your ultimate goal is to lose a bit more fat, then by all means, absolutely. If you got to, that 2,600 example number, then go for it. Just make sure you do the full proper reverse diet, get to that higher point, then you can very safely do that calorie deficit. However, if your ultimate goal is to not lose more weight, and you have finished your reverse diet, you do not need to go into another calorie deficit. Like if you have finished your reverse diet, you are feeling amazing in your body, you're feeling amazing in your relationship with food, you are feeling amazing, you've healed from the inside out, you're good to go. Be free, little one, be free. That's the big thing in BPM is I love to teach them how to, once they hit their goal, to go intuitive down the road and how to transition between those. And so it's just important because if you've hit your goal and there's no need to start, diving back into all these different things, like you can go intuitive, you can maintain at that space, like you're going to be golden right where you are. So with all that, I love this episode so much because I think a lot of people forget or don't realize that you can transition between the phases. And for anybody who is in a calorie deficit, whether that was intentional in the sense of you have done a restrictive diet or unintentional, maybe you're just like not eating food throughout the day, you've lost your hunger cues, you don't really know how much you're eating, but you actually are in a calorie deficit, you're going to want to go ahead and get that metabolism back up and really get it healing. So with all of this, I hope you enjoyed this episode. The rain looks like it's about to start really coming down and I think it's going to get loud. So I'm going to cut this episode here. I adore you all. Two pieces to pieces. You are incredible for being here. I've got some really good episodes coming up. And of course, I have so many. If you are brand new here, take a listen back to my previous episodes. I've got all kinds of goodies there. If you ever have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to reach out. I won't bite. I am very goofy. I am very silly. I am always here to support you. And if you're like, hey, Caitlin, I think that I would like to take a go. I would like to give it a go with reverse dieting. You can actually dive into my reverse diet course. This is actually the same course. My BPM clients get this course as well. And this is how they learn. This is how I am teaching you exactly how to reverse diet. So exactly what macros to adjust and when, macros being your macronutrients, your protein, carbs, and your fat. These are actually adjusted separately. So protein, carbs, and fat are adjusted separately. And the reverse diet will walk you through literally all of that, how to make sure it's 110% custom to you as an individual. And it really allows you to have the confidence and clarity that you are going through a reverse diet properly, rather than what a lot of online, I see a lot of articles out there, your random like men's, gosh, I can't remember. I was looking at a couple different articles back in when I have my bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics and then my master's degree in exercise science and sports nutrition, where I actually wrote my master's thesis on reverse dieting. And I remember we did, so many different studies and reading articles and literally just typing in Google, like how to reverse diet and finding what's out there that's very inaccurate and what's like, okay, cool, this is like a very good, solid article. But it's just interesting how many inaccurate sources are out there saying just increase by 50 to 100 calories. And I'm like, whoa, pal, please do not do that. Or if you're like, but I want to do it, Caitlen, then go do it. But then you're going to realize you're going to come down the road and you're like, I wish I didn't do it. But sometimes we have to learn by mistake. Sometimes we have to make those mistakes, and then we're going to come back and be like, all right, cool, I get it. I see what I did. Let's do this the right way. And that's okay. I really think that it's okay to learn by mistake, because if you don't know, you don't know. So with all this, I appreciate you so much for being here. I cannot wait to see you in the next episode, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, my beautiful peach.